In this module, we are going to look at the case where the output variable is drawn from a discrete space, or in other words, we are going to look at the classification problem. As before, the input is coming from a p-dimensional space Rp. The output, which I am denoting by G here, I am going to assume is coming from some space script G, which is a discrete value, right. It could be Bice computer does not Bice computer. So, capital the script G could just consist of Bice computer does not Bice computer, or it could consist of like 5 different outcomes, has the disease, a mild form of the disease, a severe form of the disease, does not have the disease, and so on and so forth, right. So, it could be a variety of outcomes, but a small discrete set. So, that space is denoted by script G, while capital G is the random variable corresponding to the output, right. And like before, we are going to have a joint distribution on the input and the output, right, and the training data is going to consist of pairs x1 g1, x2 g2 all the way up to xn gn, and the goal here is to learn a function f of x that is going to take you from the p-dimensional input space R to the discrete space script G, right. And so, the thing that we have to look at now is what is an appropriate loss function in this case. So, what is an appropriate loss function in this case? Since we are talking about a discrete output, right. So, I really cannot talk about squared error as a loss function, even though in cases where the discrete values have been encoded as numeric outputs, people do use squared error, and we will see that later, right. So, people do use squared error as an appropriate measure as long as your space G has been encoded numerically, right. So, but in general, so we are going to define the loss as a k by k matrix, where k is the cardinality of the discrete space script G that we are looking at. So, suppose there are 5 classes, then my loss matrix is going to be a 5 by 5 matrix, right. So, the thing here is it is going to have zeros on the diagonal, right, and so the kth entry in the loss matrix essentially is the cost that you incur of classifying the output k as L. So, the true output is k, but you say L, right. So, that is essentially the cost of classifying k as L. So, that is denoted by the klth entry of the loss matrix, right. So, frequently the most popular loss function that you use is known as the 0 1 loss function, right. So, the 0 1 loss function essentially says that suppose I have 3 classes, right. So, my loss function will look like this, right. So, if I classify to the right class, I get a penalty of 0, but if I classify to the wrong class, right, I get a penalty of 1 regardless of which wrong class I classify to. So, this entry says that okay, the data point actually belongs to class 1, I have classified it as class 2, what is the penalty? So, 1. Data point belongs to class 1, I classify it as class 3, what is the penalty? 1, and so on and so forth. So, this is called the 0 1 loss function, because all the entries in the loss matrix are either 0 or 1, right. So, what we are again going to look at is the expected prediction error of your f. Right, and we can do the same thing that we did earlier. So, I can start conditioning it on x, right. So, the expected prediction error and then the expectation of g over g given x, which essentially becomes a right. So, the loss of g comma f hat given that the input is x, but if you think about it, this is not a continuous distribution, this is actually a discrete distribution because g can take only finitely many values. So, instead of writing it out as this expectation, I can actually simplify that and write it as right. So, this is a loss that I will incur if k was the true class, okay, and my prediction was f hat of x times the probability that k is the true class given the input x, right. So, this is essentially I am writing out the expectation here, right. So, because it is a discrete distribution I am able to write it out in a compact form, right, and again I can do this minimization of this pointwise like we talked about earlier. So, pointwise would mean that I make a specific assumption about what is the value of x, right. So, I am going to look at right. So, we are essentially following the same treatment that we did with the regression case, except that we are using a discrete output space instead of a continuous output space, right. So, this essentially says that I am going to pick the data point, right, that gives me I am going to pick the prediction g that gives me the smallest expected error, right. So, suppose I have the 0 1 loss function, right, assume the 0 1 loss. So, what does this mean? I should essentially set my g to be that k, right, which has the highest probability. Why is that, right? So, if you think about it, this probability term contributes to every element in the summation, right. So, what I can do is among all these probability terms I can pick one term, right, and set it to 0 by my choice of g, right. So, suppose I choose g to be 1, then my L of 1 comma 1 will become 0, right, and but my L of 1 2 comma 1 3 comma 1 so on and so forth will all be 1. So, what will happen is there is a probability of 2 given x, probability of 3 given x, all of this will actually appear in the summation, right. So, if I set my g to that value of k which has the highest probability, right, then that will yield the best possible solution here, right. So, if you are not able to see that, let us assume that there are 3 classes, right, assume that there are 3 classes. So, and my true distribution is such that the probability of class 1 given data point x, let us say is 0.6, probability of class 2 given x, let us say is 0.2, let us say is another 0.2, okay. And of course, my loss function is going to be such that it will be 0 0 0 1 1 1 1 1 1, right. So, this is my loss function, right. So, if I guess that my class label is going to be 2, let us say, so I set g equal to 2. So, what is going to happen? If the class label is 1, right, so I am going to look at the loss corresponding to 1 comma 2, which is this, right. So, I will get 1 times 0.6, then if the class label is 2, so I will be looking at this, so I will get 0 times 0.2 plus, if the class label is 3, I will look at this, so I will get 1 times 0.2. So, I totally I will get a score of 0.8, right. So, as you can see, depending on which value I choose, if I choose g equal to 2, then I will be zeroing out the second entry. If I choose g equal to 1, I will be zeroing out the first entry, right. So, by choosing g equal to 1, I will basically get a score of 0.4, right. So, what I have to do in order to get the minimum here is to pick that g for which this probability is the highest. Right. So, I will set f hat of x okay. So, I hope people realize why the min here became the max here based on the argument that we just did, right. So, this is essentially saying that from your training data classify it to the most probable class, right. And if I knew this probability, right. So, what will I do? I can set it to the most probable output. So, this kind of a classifier so what does the Bayes optimal classifier say? Okay, look at the conditional distribution, right, given x, look at the probability of g, take the g that has the highest probability and assign it as the output. So, this is essentially what the Bayes optimal classifier would say, right. But then you do not know g, right. So, what you have to do is you have to estimate this probability. So, how would you estimate this probability? Do we know of any method for estimating this probability? Of course, we do. We know how to do nearest neighbor, right. So, what you would do in this case is that instead of taking the average over the neighbors like we did in the regression case, so what you would do is you would estimate the probabilities in the neighborhood. So, what you would do, you will take a data point, look at the k neighbors of the data point, k nearest neighbors of the data point, find out what their class labels are, right. So, and then divide by so for each label count the number of occurrences of that label in the k neighbors and divide by k, right. So, this will give you the probability of the class label in the neighborhood, but we really do not have to do this much work. Why? Because we are not interested in the actual probability, all we need is the one that has the maximum probability. Since the denominator is going to be k for all the probabilities, we can ignore the denominator, we can just look at the numerator. So, what we can do is we can count the occurrences of the class label in the neighborhood, and whichever occurs more often we can assign that as the class label, right. So, think about it for a minute, right. So, what we are essentially doing when we take the majority is actually estimating this probability and taking the max probability, right. So, take the majority label in the neighborhood and use that as your prediction. So, this essentially gives you the k nearest neighbor classifier. So, what we saw earlier was a k nearest neighbor regressor. So, all the caveats that we talked about for the k nearest neighbor regressor apply to the k nearest neighbor classifier as well. So, you have to be careful about using it in very high dimensions, right, and you really need large values of k and large values of n before you can get stable estimates. But having said all that, I should say that it turns out to be a really powerful classifier in practice, and we will come back to that a little later as to why it is such a powerful classifier, right. And can we use linear regression or the linearity assumption here? It turns out that you could use linear regression in almost directly for solving this problem. So, the way you do it is the following: you take this data set x1, g1, x2, g2 and so on and so forth and convert it into a data set suitable for doing regression. So, how do I do that? So, I take that x1, g1, right. Let us say that I have only 2 classes. For simplicity's sake, let us say I have only 2 classes, right. So, I have g1 and g2, right. Right. So, let us say 1 and 2. So, I will say that the 0 or 1, right. So, instead of having some arbitrary classes, I am going to say it is 0 or 1. So, what I am going to now do is my thing will either become something like this, right. Right. So, instead of having some arbitrary symbols g's, right, g1, g2, I am going to have 0, 1, 1, 0 and so on and so forth. Now, what I can do is I can solve this as a regression problem. I can just solve this as a regression problem, and whatever output I get, I can treat that as an estimate of the probability of g given x, if you think about it, right. So, probability of g equal to 1 given x. So, for the same value of x, if there are multiple ones, right, suppose the same value x occurs say 5 times in my training data, 3 of the times it was 1 and 2 of the times it was 0, right. So, when I am trying to do a prediction, I would expect to end up at the average of this prediction, right. So, which is be like 3 by 5, and that also turns out to be the probability with which the output is 1 given an x, right. So, if I do regression with this as my training data, so what I will be learning is a probability that g equal to 1 given x, right, roughly. There are a lot of caveats in this, which we will look at when we do regression later. Obviously, you cannot treat this directly as probabilities, because the regression curve can become negative, right. So, you can't really treat it as probabilities, but it just to have it's a useful intuition to have. And so, the output that you learn here, so your f hat of x, right, in this case if it is greater than or equal to 0.5, then you say the class is 1. If it is less than 0.5, you say the class is 0, right. So, you can use a linear regression to solve this as well, right. So, what we have done in this couple of modules is to look at a unifying formulation for classification and regression problems, so supervised learning problems, and looked at a couple of different classifiers that arise out of making certain assumptions about classifiers and regressors, that arise out of making certain assumptions about the functions that we are trying to learn, right. In the subsequent classes, we will start looking at each of these in more detail. So, starting off with linear regression, we will look at these different classifiers in greater detail. So, thank you.